Today we're going over the Choose Your Legends 10 banner featuring Brave Sylvain, Azura, Sigurd, and Tsubasa. We call these Brave Alts because that was the moniker for the first COL units. As usual, all players get to choose one of these COL winners for free. The banner itself will have 4 spark opportunities, and a reminder that these COL units are all permanent 5-star pool additions. Brave Sylvain's outfit is inspired by his timeskip attire and the 3 Houses Great Knight class. I feel like a lot of people made Sylvain into a Dark Knight, but it seems they went Great Knight because that's his dad's class in 3 Hopes. Considering Sylvain finally gets the Lance of Ruin, you can see why they went with that look. Brave Sylvain is a Lance Cavalier with 40 HP, 49 attack, 49 speed, 49 defense, and 13 res. Extremely favoring physical stats with attack, defense, and res super boons. You might want to keep Sylvain away from mages though. As a note, it is looking like we are indeed moving on to Gen 11 base stat totals. Typically that means plus 5 BST for newer units, which can affect arena scoring. Older units can catch up in total stats with Dragon Flowers, which also got its capped raise. As for old skills, Sylvain has Shatter Slash as a special and Attack and Speed Rival Break. He has Reposition to use with his new inheritable B skill. Sylvain's Lance of Ruin states, at start of turn or after acting, inflict -7 attack, speed, and defense, Frozen, and Sabotage on closest foes and anyone within 2 spaces. For himself, Sylvain will get Kanto Distance +1, Slaying, and 15 stats in combat. He deals 25 true damage per hit and has 15 Excel type flat damage reduction. Lance of Ruin is very straightforward and inflicts a hefty dose of debuffs, everything except res, and you get Sabotage to double up in combat. Despite being pretty fast already, Sylvain whips out Frozen as well. If foes can't match his defense, he will get even more speed advantages. Lance of Ruin's exclusive combat art has become Ruin Sky style. Sylvain gets a 2-space range attack with 10 extra true damage. It's not fly effectiveness, but Sylvain will get weapon triangle advantage versus flyers. Well, actually that's incorrect, as stated by the in-game notification. The description is wrong, but the effect is working correctly, I believe. Sylvain is actually gaining 1 stage of weapon triangle advantage versus flyers. I don't think we've ever had this before. It's a little convoluted, but basically any neutral matchups will become advantaged. For example, along with red enemies, Sylvain also gains weapon triangle advantage versus blue and colorless flyers. Since Sylvain normally is disadvantaged against green flyers, Ruin Sky's style advances 1 stage up, so he actually gets a neutral matchup. I can only assume they implemented it like this because we may see this weapon triangle mechanic more in the future. Sylvain doesn't actually have any other weapon triangle related effects, but if you wanted to use Arch Rival or perhaps Arm Shield, this is one way to activate those abilities. If you get Brave Azura, she does have a synergistic weapon triangle related ability that Sylvain could use. Moving on, Sylvain's unique C skill is Philanderer, which is his personal skill from 3 houses. You don't only need ladies this time though. First off, Sylvain wants to use a Rally or Movement Assist, and he grants the Bonded status to his ally. Sylvain can also initiate combat, and after he grants Bonded to allies within 3 spaces. Bonded as a status does not do anything besides trigger other effects on this skill. For example, if allies have Bonded, Sylvain gets an extra action after Kanto, and he re-enables Kanto. In addition, after a Bonded ally acts within 3 spaces of Sylvain, he gets another extra action. This effect is counted separately, so Sylvain can get 2 extra actions. Continuing, for Sylvain, Bonded allies or any allies within 3 rows or columns, Sylvain grants them +5 stats, 7 true damage, 7 flat DR, and if you outspeed, you get no follow-up. For Sylvain only, he gets the 100% potent follow-up condition. Sylvain's 2 extra actions requiring allies are kinda a neat counterpart to like Felix's Lone Wolf extra actions. Ideally, Sylvain will reposition an ally, Kanto move, then get the first extra action. He can then make an attack and possibly spread Bonded to more allies. As long as a Bonded ally acts within 3 spaces of Sylvain, he will get his second extra action. He can be very mobile without actually fighting. Interestingly, Sylvain's Bonded status does interact with female Alir's Bonded related skills on her recent Rearmed ult and her Summer ult. That could be something fun to look into. Sylvain's new inheritable B skill is Speed and Defense Union. First off, at start of either phase, grant the new Union status to the user. Union is a stat boosting status. You get bonus stats equal to 2 times the number of allies with Union active, including the user. Basically, if you got 4 total units with Union, they all get +8 to all stats. The other parts of this status are ways to spread Union to allies. The first and second conditions are the exact same as how Philanderer shares the Bonded status. So you can use a Rally or Movement Assist, or you can initiate and anyone within 3 spaces will get Union after. The third condition is new. If other allies fight within 3 spaces of the user, they will get Union as well. Basically, it's all about spreading Union around. You need to give it to 3 other allies to get the +8 stats. This will also activate more effects because for the user and any allies with Union, they get true damage equal to 3 times the number of allies with Union, including the user. 4 Union units grants 12 true damage. In addition, you get no guard and 50% DR piercing. Now, for the speed and defense Union holder themselves, you get an extra -4 speed and defense on the foe. You also get 10 true damage and flat DR. Union is an interesting alternative to Favor. You got stats, true damage, cooldown, and 50% DR piercing. Instead of -1 cooldown outright, Union will give no guard. One difference between Favor and Union is that Favor shares its field buffs while Union gives the user 10 flat DR. It could be fun to run a Favor and Union combo since their effects technically do not overlap. Unfortunately, Union is not as easy to inherit as Favor. It can be used by everyone minus healers, but its prerequisites are Speed Feint 3 and Defense Feint 3. Those skills have only been on Valentine's Soren, Bridal Tharja, and Summer Innis. In other words, good luck if you want all 3 of Sylvain's inheritable skills. Brave Sylvain brings a lot of buffs and debuffs, but you do need to use his assist skill to spread both bonded and union statuses. Sylvain's extra actions require his bonded ally to be kinda near him, and union gets stronger the more allies you spread it to. If you wanted to lean more into a utility and buffing role, Sylvain could be a decent holder of Foresight Nyx. You could also swap to Favor instead of Union if you prefer. A new skill on this banner is Jam Session. This A skill can give bread type cooldown, but can also give +4 stats to your entire team after the user has acted at least once. It's a small bump, but it's another support effect you could add to Sylvain. As for his own combat, Sylvain isn't doing things super fancy. He has no guard, but to proc Shadow Slash in 1 round, he would still need all 3 hits, including Potent, and he would also need to tank an enemy counter. Luckily, Sylvain brings Frozen to help win speed battles. If other fast foes don't match his defense, they can get overwhelmed. As for other skills, Sylvain could use Impetus Guard for some defensive perks with Momentum cooldown. Execution Breath is another breath type cooldown method. For more weapon triangle effects, Arm Shield gives +10 to attack speed and defense with debuff neutralization. There's also Arced Rival for another special option. Other specials are Wind Edge or Gale Force Mist. For Sacred Seals, Blue Skies is great, but if you want to lean into Frozen, then speed and defense stat boosters would be preferred. You could even use the low attack and defense seal just to cancel out some field buffs. Overall, Brave Sylvain's only brand new mechanic is his quirky new weapon triangle effect versus flyers. He does, however, have a lot of good effects, such as 2 extra actions, 100% potent, and frozen. His support is also pretty solid, and relies on Sylvain getting chummy with his teammates. I'd say it's kinda fitting. Next, Brave Azura's outfit, as far as I can tell, is a new original design. It uses colors and elements from Hoshido Nor and Vala according to Faye, but I mean, it's still pretty similar to her usual look. As a unit, Azura is going to be a colorless flying mage with 37 HP, 46 attack, 49 speed, 13 defense, and 49 res. Opposite to Sylvain, Azura is dropping all defense for solid speed and res. 46 attack is also pretty good for a dancer. The reason for that is because, well, unless I'm missing something, Azura does not have the dancer BST penalty. Because she's also Gen 11, she's about 15 BST above Gen 10's flying dancer, allowing Peony. I'm not sure if this is a special CYO treatment or they're getting rid of the dancer BST penalty. Meanwhile, they hated Marcus enough to bring back the veteran BST penalty, so I don't know what's going on with that. Either way, Azura's got the same base stat totals as a regular flying mage. For old skills, Azura will have speed and res detect aerial. This is a res comparing debuffing skill, hence Azura's pretty high base res. Azura's weapon is the threefold hymn. For Azura and allies within 3 rows or columns, Azura will give +15 stats in combat while allies get +5. Everyone can get preamp pulses, -1 instant cooldown. If Azura's team initiates and has weapon triangle advantage, she essentially gives them the effects of triangle adept. She adds another 20% to the attack bonus for her team, and another -20% to the penalty for the enemy. From testing, it does not seem to stack with the actual triangle depth status, so 40% is the max like usual. As for other effects, only for Azura, she gets counter distance +1 with a max of 4, minimum of 2. She has Phantom Res +5 to help activate the detect aerial skill. Azura then has Slaying, 25 true damage and 15 flat DR. Interestingly, she gets the Raven Tongue effect as a colorless unit, so Azura has weapon triangle advantage versus other colorless foes that allows her to use her own triangle depth effect. Because the triangle depth effect only works when Azura's team initiates, and when they have the advantage, it means you don't get the double-edged sword part of triangle depth. In other words, Azura only rewards you and won't screw you over if you run into a bad matchup. Azura has a much more prominent support ability, but honestly, I think this effect is pretty great to have. It definitely could make a difference for sure. Azura's assist skill is Yours to Climb, and boy is it something. First off, Azura can refresh allies and re-enable Kanto. However, she can also use this assist on allies who have yet to act. In that case, she will give them the Perform status. We'll go over that in a bit. While dancing, Azura gives her ally Draconic Hex for extra stat advantages, and then +1 movement. After her Kanto triggers, if Azura uses this assist skill, she will get her own extra action. As for Perform, the status is basically a delayed dance effect. When your ally takes their turn, they get an extra action and re-enable Kanto. Once this occurs, Perform will be removed from other allies. Naturally, Azura cannot give this to other dancer type units. Basically, Azura won't need to be next to an ally to refresh them. She can give them Perform, and then they can go do whatever, then get the extra action. It's pretty crazy stuff. While Perform does disable itself after it is used, since Azura has an extra action, she can just grant Perform after that happens. There are going to be some insane plays with this effect. Yours to Climb has a style. Instead of a long range attack within 5 spaces and within 3 rows or columns, Azura will make a long range assist. Basically, she can dance allies from very far away. All the same effects will be applied, so Draconic Hex +1 movement, and if they didn't go yet, then Azura hands them Perform to use for later. This style can be used once per turn, and Azura gets an extra action so she can dance twice every turn. As if the 2-range dance from earlier this year wasn't crazy enough, now Azura can possibly dance from 5 spaces away. Azura has 2 new inheritable skills. The first is Rhythm Session, which is a dancer-only skill. Your dancer must have Singer Dance actually equipped. Rhythm Session is pretty wild though. Your dancer is going to get +10 to all stats, 7 true damage and 7 flat DR, defensive tempo, and guard. Finally, if the user has already acted, then they now get a support effect granting +4 stats to allies within 3 rows or columns. Rhythm Session will require Blade or Shield Session 3, not easy to get skills. It does give dancers a lot of stats along with some defensive perks if they get into a fight. It's also a rare chance to get a support effect from the A slot. This is the only session part of the skill, and unlike the old Blade or Shield Session, this mechanic has been buffed. Instead of only needing grayed out units, it only checks if your unit acted at least once. For example, after Azura dances, she gets an extra action. This is still enough to trigger the +4 stats for allies. Azura's other new inheritable is Shadow Rush X. I don't know why they went with this name because this skill is just Shadow Smite X. When Kanto triggers, you can use Shadow Smite to move an ally. This skill now gives +4 stats and 7 HP healing support to allies within 3 rows or columns. The user gets an extra 5 true damage and flat DR. Naturally, Shadow Rush X is just an updated Shadow Smite. After you move an ally, you can also provide them with long range buffs. It's a very fitting skill for a dancer like Azura. She can dance or perform, then smite the ally in. Overall, Brave Azura is kinda nuts. 2 dancers per turn, with one of those being a long range dance via her style. On top of this, Azura can perform for a still active unit, and then they can refresh themselves later. After she dances, Azura can also smite allies into battle with Shadow Rush X. Now, to pair with her dancing, Azura has a lot of support effects for combat. Her weapon, A skill, and C skill can give +13 to all stats total. The tech Aerial inflicts -5 speed and res with low, along with +10 true damage. Draconic Hex can grant up to -5 to -10 stats. Shadow Rush X also gives healing. From her unique skills, Azura gives Preempt Pulse, and her dance allies can give +1 movement with a Kanto refresh. Last, Azura has that unique Triangle Depth effect only when initiating. Azura doesn't really need any other skills. For specials, you can use anything cheap like Iceberg, but if you didn't want to go premium, Azura could use Wind or Ice Edge for %DR. She could also use Logic or Ice Wall. For A skills, Arya could give more true damage on special procs, or Azura could stack flat resistance with Crystalline Water. For B skills, I do think Speed and Demons Allure is a viable replacement for Detect Aerial. You got -7 Speed and Demons debuffs with Sabotage and their Shackle versions. Azura can also just use actual Shackle debuffs, including the new Demonic Shackle. That's more for combat though, along with skills like Conjuring Breath. As for C skills, you do have options here. Azura could opt for fly mobility skills like Soaring Guidance or Stride Assault. There are also other long-range support skills like Crux, Uplift, or even Ploy skills themselves. Azura can find other utility in Sacred Seals like Shadow Shove 3 or Aerobatics and Fly Formation. You can use that to warp around your teammates before you dance. All in all, Brave Azura should be an excellent unit for a long while. Multiple new dance mechanics and a good support field base kit. She even has extra stats compared to the usual dancers. The winner of the men's division this year was Sigurd. His outfit is supposed to be his old military academy uniform, and it definitely is inspired by this cipher card artwork. A few tweaks were made, but still very cool. Sigurd is once again a sword cavalier. He has 41 HP, 50 attack, 44 speed, 50 defense, and 16 res. Sigurd has attack and defense super boons, both important stats for his kit. Probably don't want to get hit by mages though. For old skills, Sigurd has attack and defense rival break, which is his recent dual ult also introduced. With his excellent mobility and Kanto, Sigurd can also use Shadow Shift X for repositioning. Sacred Ambition is Sigurd's sword. At start of either phase, grants Truly Incited, Defense Liberate, and 50% DR piercing statuses to allies within 2 spaces. Sigurd will get Kanto Distance +1. He then has Slaying, +15 stats, 25 true damage, and 15 Excel type flat DR. Sigurd is not bringing a momentum skill this time because momentum cooldown is baked into his weapon. Instead of only -2 instant cooldown, Sigurd can now get -3 instant cooldown if he moves 3 spaces. Besides momentum, it's a fairly standard weapon. Sigurd will get the full +8 from Defense Liberate, and his extreme mobility will also fully activate Truly Incited for another +8 to all stats. For his 4 cooldown AoE special, Sigurd has Crusader's Heir. This special is very similar to his recent dual ults version. It has the blazing AoE damage, so 1.5 times Sigurd's flat attack minus the foe's flat defense or res. At start of turn, Sigurd gets Gallop 5 movement, and he has 40% damage reduction for all hits. If Crusader's Heir triggers, Heir is at least ready, or Cadenza triggered, then Sigurd's first follow-up will deal true damage equal to 80% defense. After combat and after Cadenza combat, if this special triggered, Sigurd will enable Cadenza against any foe within his 3x3 AoE box. Additionally, Sigurd will also give his team +1 movement and negate stall effects so they can follow him into battle. First off, Crusader's Heir is another override AoE special, and like last time, Sigurd's follow-up can get Ignis levels of true damage to try and finish the enemy off. Instead of frozen effects, this time Sigurd activates Cadenza, and probably going to see this effect a lot in the coming year. The Cadenza effect is actually not that complicated, it's only the first part at the top. After combat initiated by the unit can attack again within a specified range. For Sigurd, this range is his entire box AoE, so Savior might not save you if your team is completely grouped up. From his special, Sigurd can also get to use 2 Cadenza attacks, which is kinda insane. Basically, Cadenza is like Gale Force, but it occurs before Kanto, so it's technically not an extra action. It's a new extra attack mechanic. Post-combat effects still trigger, and Sigurd will get rid of penalties that last through his next action. The rest of this description is a crazy amount of conditions. Like range styles, Sigurd can still get hit back if the foe is distant or close counter. Sigurd is considered a melee unit. Each Cadenza attack still gets the movement-related effects of the original combat, so for example, Sigurd's momentum cooldown and rival break effects are still active. This is important because you cannot move during Cadenza. Also, AoE specials do not trigger. For something we'll cover later, if you attack a foe in the same range of multiple Cadenza effects, then both Cadenzas will be counted as having triggered. Finally, for the last section, Cadenza won't trigger if stopped by Foresight Snare or Aether Raid traps. You can only use 1 Cadenza per turn in summoner duels. You cannot use Cadenza at all in Pawns of Loki. Cadenza is the hot new mechanic for this CYL batch. If you cannot finish Sigurd off in 1 round, well, he could attack another unit 3 to 4 spaces away. It's time to start taking bets to see how long before they introduce a counter to this mechanic. Continuing, Sigurd's new inheritable skill is No Risk. Similar to Patience, this skill requires you to have at least 30 speed before entering battle. The big difference is that if you fail to meet that speed check, it deactivates this entire skill, so don't do that. No Risk will inflict -4 attack, defense, and res on the foe. It has 20% defense scaling for true damage and flat DR. You then get Briar's 40% damage reflection effect, so after taking a hit, your next counterattack will deal true damage equal to 40% of the foe's first attack before reductions. Last, if your unit has more defense than the enemy, you trigger potent follow X%. If you only hit one time, you get a 100% potent follow-up. If you hit 2 or more times in any fashion, you only get a 50% potent follow-up. No Risk is an interesting skill. It actually builds out of Brash Assault 3, so it seems like a player phase version of Patience. The general idea is to initiate, tank a hit, and then get a guaranteed follow-up with the 40% damage reflection. Of course, you can still use it on enemy phase as well. For some major differences from Patience, No Risk is only for Cavaliers and Flyers. However, it can be used by ranged Cavs and Flyers, which is interesting because ranged units don't really get potent effects. With that being said, for Patience, if you hit 30 speed, you're guaranteed to get the potent follow-up. That is not true with No Risk. You need to hit 30 speed and win a defense check. Because of how volatile stat swings are in this game, any kind of stat comparison is just not a guarantee. If you're going to use No Risk, you better be all in on defense stacking like Mr. Sigurd here. For those of you who missed out on Dual Sigurd and Eldigan, well, Brave Sigurd's very similar. You still want to use his high mobility to trigger momentum cooldown and proc the box AoE special immediately. If Sigurd can't finish the job, his follow-up gets Ignis level true damage to hopefully finish off the enemy. After combat, Sigurd will rally his troops with +1 movement. For some key differences, Sigurd does lack Miracle, so to get to a follow-up, it's just purely relying on his super high defense. If you run into magic damage, well, he still has 40% DR and flat DR skills, but yeah, that is a real weakness. In exchange, Brave Sigurd is really scary if he lives. He gets to use 2 Cadenza extra attacks on anyone hit by the AoE, so Sigurd can take out 3 foes in one go. He then can Kanto away and Shadow Shift an ally forward. For some nasty additions, Edelgard's Ring can give him a real extra action. Sigurd gets 2 Cadenzas uses per turn, and you do not have to use both back to back. Another fun add-on is the True Rain Style as a status that could let Sigurd hit the backers of backlines. As for other skills, Sigurd could use Foresight Nyx if you really hate Heimdallr. Arm Shield's debuff neutralization and guard would be useful too. I would not swap out No Risk, but technically Sigurd could use Riptide skills or even Patience itself. I would only really do it if you don't think he can win the defense check for whatever reasons. For C skills, Shadow Shift is fine to keep too, but I do think Attack of Demons Outcry Dull actually is a viable alternative, purely for the extra defense for No Risk. As for finishing off enemies, Fatal Smoke can help keep healing at least partially in check. For Secret Seals and Ace skills, technically you could run flat attack skills to boost Crusader's Heir's damage. Generally the AoE damage isn't the main issue for Sigurd though, so it's not a must. Blue Sky's flat DR is nice, however it doesn't grant defense, so stat boosters like Solo, Prime, or Clash are possibly better here. Low attack and defense is not bad either. Last, you should know that Cadenza triggers after combat effects. For example, it triggers the 7 HP healing from Shadow Shift. This will also apply to out of combat damage from things like Savage Blow or Poison Strike. That could be useful for enemies with much higher HP pools. I mean, to no surprise, Sigurd's gonna be a pretty good unit for PvE content. Overall, Brave Sigurd is doing Sigurd things, but Cadenza is real scary. If you cannot defeat him in one round, Sigurd's coming back for rounds 2 and 3 back to back. The winner of the women's division is Tsubasa. Her brave attire is basically her school uniform from Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Meanwhile, Mirage Shida and her cool robot have been promoted to a Falcon Knight. Very neat. Brave Tsubasa is a green flying mage. She has 37 HP, 46 attack, 50 speed, 13 defense, and 48 res. Tsubasa will need a miracle against physical damage despite that defense super boon. Meanwhile, Tsubasa is our first unit to finally break the 50 base speed barrier. She even has a super boon. We've hit 50s for our other base stats before, but now the 50 speed floodgates are open. As for old skills, Tsubasa has Logic as her special, and that's it. Tsubasa has the Mirage Excalibur this time. For allies within 2 spaces, if they initiate combat, Tsubasa gives them Cadenza against any foe within a distance of the ally's attack range, +1. This can trigger up to twice per turn. It's not in a row like Sigurd unless your ally has their own extra action. For Tsubasa only perks, she has Kanto 2, Sling, and Fly Effectiveness. She has the usual +15 stats, 25 true damage, and 15 flat DR. Tsubasa does actually have a Miracle effect, and she will heal 7 HP after combat to loop it. Fly Effectiveness and Miracle are fun, but Tsubasa is going to put a lot of her power into helping her teammates. She will give Cadenza to allies, which is insanely powerful when combined with her unique C skill. We've gone over the cadenza rules with Sigurd already, but I want to highlight an interaction when you have multiple cadenza effects. If Sigurd initiates within 2 spaces of Tsubasa, he gets his cadenza and Tsubasa's cadenza. If you pick a target that overlaps these cadenza ranges, you trigger both effects. However, if Sigurd picks a foe only in his range or only in Tsubasa's range, then you only get one of the cadenza effects. For example, let's attack the flyer using Tsubasa's cadenza range. Next, my Sigurd has Edelgard's Ring for an extra action so I can attack Plumeria. His AoE tags 2 other enemies, and Sigurd still gets to use his own 2 cadenzas. We just got this mechanic and it's already starting off kinda crazy. Can't wait to see someone like Edelgard add cadenza into her pool of extra actions. Moving on, Tsubasa's unique C skill, I'll Soar Higher, is very powerful. First off, Tsubasa gives 2-space guidance warping for allies around her, and she herself has 2-space warping too. Next, Tsubasa has Tana's warp ability, so after acting, Tsubasa enables allies to warp to a tile within 2 spaces from anywhere on the map. To make this effect even stronger, Tsubasa gives pass to her allies warping in. Basically, if Tsubasa moves, she summons her entire team with pass warping. From her weapon, she will then give these allies cadenza, so yeah, good luck. To pair with the Warp Madness, Tsubasa can grant +5 stats to allies within 3 rows or columns. She then gets 7 true damage and flat DR with no follow-up. Last, Tsubasa has the 100% potent follow condition. It's very nice for a speedy unit. Tsubasa has 2 new inheritable skills. Jam Session is a proper Blade Session update. It grants +10 attack and speed, and an extra 2 attack and speed for every ally who has acted in the current turn at least once. If 2 different allies have taken an action, you can get up to +14 attack and speed. For other effects, Jam Session gives 7 true damage and flat DR plus breath type cooldown. Like Rhythm Session, you can get +4 stats to allies within 3 rows or columns after the user takes an action. Jam Session also builds out a Blade or Shield Session, so it's not going to be easy to inherit. It's only for Cavaliers and Flyers, so the breath type cooldown is nice, and generally speaking, the skill is decent if you just want attack, speed, and cooldown. Like with Rhythm Session, the session mechanics are much easier to work with due to all the extra actions in the game. You're just counting if individual allies have taken any action at all. Even someone like Sylvain could use this skill. Tsubasa's other inheritable skill is Demonic Shackle. This is pretty much just a side grade to Demonic Force. For same effects, both skills inflict -4 speed and res, grant true damage and flat DR based on max special cooldown, and preempt pulse. Instead of debuff neutralization, Demonic Shackle will inflict res shackle on the closest foes at start of turn and after acting. For the most part, if you use a high cooldown special, either Demonic Force or Shackle are fine. Personally, I would say debuff neutralization is more important to have, but if it's already covered, then Demonic Shackle lowers resistance for all of your teammates to use. An important notice, Demonic Shackle still requires Magic Gambit, which was a super rare skill. Well, the Grand Hero Battle for this CYL group is Rodrigue, and he has Magic Gambit 3, definitely a nice addition for skill inheriting. Brave Tsubasa dedicates a part of her power to utility and support. She can warp her entire team around her and then give them 2 cadenza attack opportunities. This alone makes Tsubasa incredibly dangerous, and Warp Bubble will not save you. For a bit more support, Demonic Shackle can inflict Res Shackle. Tsubasa's C skill and Jam Session can give her allies +9 to all stats. As for personal combat, Tsubasa can get -instant cooldown via Logic and Demonic Shackle. She has breath type cooldown, so her first hit will charge Logic, and a second hit will proc it. Tsubasa has no follow-up and a 100% potent effect to get there. She will also have Logic's 40% DR and some flat DR, and then she also attacks on Miracle. For other skills, Tsubasa could run Aria for more true damage or Foresight Nyx to be the first one initiating, but Jam Session's fine to keep. In the B slot, you could run Demonic Force instead or use Conjuring Breath for cooldown. For a different playstyle, Tsubasa could run a more support-heavy skill like Favor, Detect Aerial, or even Havoc. If you want to set up your teammates for warping, you could use Smoke or Drive-type Sacred Seals. Tsubasa could make use of any attack and speed boosting skills, and if she stays low on HP via Miracle, you could use Desperation to avoid more dangerous enemies. Also from a Miracle can be Close Transcend for close counter. As for specials, Logic's fine to keep, but you technically could swap to Wind or Ice Edge if you really want. Brave Tsubasa giving Alice cadenza is going to open up some crazy strategies. She can already do some insane things with Sigurd, and I imagine we're going to see even more cadenza effects down the line. That will be it for this year's Choose Your Legends winners. Cadenza's definitely opening up a whole new can of worms, and Azura is literally inventing new ways to dance. The Grand Hero battle unit for this year is Rodrigue. Felix's dad is bringing the Aegis Shield and has a very quirky savior effect on his weapon. We'll talk about Rodrigue more in the next video. Enjoy your free COL 10 pick, and good luck if you are summoning. The banner lasts for an entire month, and you'll know when that ends because it's the day we get a whole new Fire Emblem cast to vote for in next year's COL. It's gonna be a bloodbath for sure. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.